Star versus the Forces of Evil, Episode 5A, Diaz Family Vacation, I believe is what this one was called, in which it is Marco's parents' anniversary, and Marco has gotten them a gift. He got them fanny packs with what he considers to be useful supplies in them, because I guess his parents tend to travel and get lost a lot, which is adorable. I love his parents so much. But the point is, Star didn't know to get them anything, and so therefore didn't get them anything. And even though Marco says it would be fine to just go in on his gift with him, Star, I guess, gets really jealous that Marco's parents are so happy to have gotten a gift from Marco. So she takes them to Muni, but not to like the royal part of Muni, but like the really low class area of Muni, which, first of all, that they actually included in this show a fairly realistic representation of what the lower class in a large medieval kingdom would be like was pretty interesting, but the fact that they actually managed to make it funny is even more impressive. But that's besides the point. She takes them to Muni, and she takes them to the low-class area of Muni, specifically to avoid her parents, because this all follows a conversation that she had with her parents where they remind her that she's not supposed to leave Earth for any reason. And it's never implicitly specified, but you can tell she doesn't expect to run into anyone associated with her family down here. And so she is, of course, incredibly surprised when she sees her father just kind of wandering around. And so to avoid him in typical reckless Star fashion, she leads Marco and Marco's parents into the Forest of Certain Death, I think is what it was called, something along those lines. And they survive basically on random chance, whereas Marco is managing to survive using the supplies that he packed in his own fanny pack. But they do manage to wander off on their own, and they get lost in a cave that has a big Hydra-like creature in it. And we think they were eaten, but they weren't actually eaten. It was a whole thing. I mean, it was like a volcanic cave or something with lava and hot spots in it. So based on the way that the scene was presented to us and framed, I kind of guessed where they were going to end up actually being, but that's just because I'm awesome. Anyway, at the very end, after Marco and Star have defeated the Hydra, Star's father comes in, and he doesn't exactly finish it off, but he comes in as if he would have finished it off if it had needed finishing off. And he's dressed like some kind of barbarian, and he's carrying a spear. And he's, of course, shocked to see Star there, but Star is shocked to see him there because he's supposed to be at some boring lecture or some other thing. And the two of them realize that Star gets her impulsive monster-hunting gene. Not that that would necessarily be a gene, but I couldn't think of a better term to fit there. From her father, which I thought was a really cool detail, because up to this point, we didn't know anything about him. This episode was a lot of fun. Marco was really on point in this one with the fanny packs and having exactly the right thing to deal with each of the threats in the forest and even the Hydra itself in his fanny pack somehow. Because like 90% of the stuff we saw, not that we saw a lot, but most of the stuff that we saw shouldn't have worked. It was just really creative seeing him deal with monsters in the background and then seeing him deal with the Hydra in such a simple manner, and I'm not going to spoil exactly what it is because it was pretty clever. Was actually clever is the best word for it. And it was presented in the background of the episode almost. You had to pick up on some of it, just like Marco's parents kind of accidentally avoiding all the dangers in the forest was kind of presented in the background. Star was in the foreground freaking out, and here they are just kind of doing their thing. It's really a good example of how layered the comedy in this show gets. There is something funny in every single shot of the majority of these episodes, and I'm absolutely adoring that about the show. And I know it gets a lot more serious later on, and I hope it keeps its sense of humor once it gets serious, because the sense of humor is, after the animation, probably my favorite thing about this show up at this point. A lot of the, I don't know if randomness is really the word, but the variety and the high energy to the humorous scenes in this show actually reminds me a lot of The Amazing World of Gumball, which is another one of my favorite comedy shows on TV right now. And I just hope it manages to hold on to that once the show undergoes this transformation you guys keep telling me is going to happen, where it suddenly becomes a lot more real. Overall, I liked this episode a lot, especially Star getting to bond with her dad. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was a great detail to throw in there. It wasn't technically necessary. We could have found out about Star's dad actually being a lot like Star in a ton of different ways. But they managed to throw it into this episode anyway as a subplot, as like a subplot, and still have it be meaningful. It was just very well handled. In fact, one of the things I'm noticing about this show consistently is the fact that even though the episodes are only 11 minutes long, so much is able to happen in them without the pace feeling off, because the show has such high energy and you expect things to move as quickly as they do. I wouldn't say this is necessarily my favorite of the episodes that I've seen so far, but I definitely really enjoyed it. And of course, any excuse to see more of Marco's parents is great in my book, because I absolutely love them. As per usual, guys, I'd like to know, what did you think of this episode if you have seen it? Let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below, and let me know, spoiler-free, in the comments also, if we get to see much more of Muni, because it seems like a pretty interesting place. This has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.